What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Got some major news here for you guys. You're not going to believe what's happening to gas prices here in the United States and around the world. Also, the Teamsters and UPS have a tentative deal. I'll stress tentative here. Let me give you the details here. Yeah, quote, we've changed the game as the Teamsters win a historic UPS contract. But note, this is a tentative contract as they have to vote on this at the end of the month. And UPS union workers call off strike threat after securing pay raises for workers. But note, deals like this have fallen apart in the past, specifically with the railroad workers. They had a deal. Then, when it came to the vote fell through and it didn't go through. And then they had to go back to the negotiating table. Here's the details on this. The Teamster union said it had secured pay raises for UPS workers, averting that what would have been one of, I believe, actually the largest strike in U.S. history. Saying, quote, UPS has put $30 billion more in new money on the table as a direct result of the negotiations, Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien said in a statement. This contract sets a new standard in labor movement and raises the bar for all workers. So an additional $30 billion. Seems like a lot of money, right? Under the tentative 5-year agreement, note tentative being the key word there, existing full-time and part-time UPS Teamsters will earn $2.75 more per hour in 2023 and $7.50 more per hour over the length of the contract, as this would be a 5-year agreement. Wages for existing part-time workers will also be raised to no less than $21 per hour. Note here that $21 per hour times 40 hours a week comes out to about $8.40 a week. And that times 52 hours or 52 weeks a year is about $43,000 a year. If you worked full time, that is actually less than the average worker earns per year nowadays. Just to keep that in mind. New part-time hires at UPS will start at $21 per hour and advanced to $23 per hour. This is for part-time hires, so keep that in mind. Remember, the average wage earner nowadays in US is, as you can see here, $58,000 according to the National Occupation Employment and Wage Estimates, at about $28 per hour or $58,000 per year. It's estimated, this is as of 2021 for this specific statement I'm about to give you, it's estimated that women in the US earn about 83 cents for every dollar that a man earns, or about 17% less. This also comes as the Federal Reserve, the Feds, are set to have their interest rate meeting. I'll have a video coming up here on that, so stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll keep you up to date here on that to see what they're going to do, how much of an interest rate hike they might do, and also what their details are going to be on what they might give us thoughts on going forward for the rest of the year, what the stock market might do, what this might mean for your pensions, 401ks, IRAs, and what this might do to our economy going forward. Speaking of that, yesterday we saw the biggest one-day gas price increase in a year. And in fact, this is the largest increase in gas prices I've ever seen in one day ever. I remember back when we had the gas prices going up dramatically. The most I had ever seen in a day was 4 cents per day. I've seen that several times. Well, yesterday, gas prices went up 5 cents in one day. And you can see here, analysts are saying that there's a bumpy road ahead for U.S. gasoline demand and energy transition. Um, yeah, you can see here there's a bumpy road ahead. I'll get to the details here in a second. Let me show you this here first. National average gas prices here, we're starting to creep up to a national average of $4 per gallon. Of course, if you're in some states like California, you're probably already over $4 per gallon. It depends on where you are. Please let me know down below in the comments section how much gas is where you are right now. But you can see here we jumped from an average of 363 to 368, actually almost 369 because it's 368.7. But we did go up 5 cents overnight in one day. That is the most I have ever seen in one day. And from a week ago, we've actually gone up 12 cents in 1 week. Yeah. And remember here that we have actually seen OPEC and OPEC Plus, which is Saudi Arabia, Russia, part of the OPEC Plus, and the Middle Eastern countries have actually cut oil output by over 3 million barrels per day. They have cut their oil output to lower supply on the market. They've done this through three different output cuts to make it so that there's less oil on the market, and this makes it rise the price of oil. Okay, now we don't buy oil from Russia specifically, but we do buy oil from Saudi Arabia and different markets. And remember that the U.S. government doesn't really get to control per se where we buy the oil. It's more so the oil and gas companies. Think BP, Shell, Chevron. Years and years ago, Congress passed a law that said we would have a free market that basically just lets free trade exist, and that the oil companies could, at their discretion, basically, based on dollar and cents, if they wanted to, if it was economically feasible, they could decide to sell oil, gas, diesel, natural gas, any of those things to other countries, and also buy any of those oil, gas, diesel, natural gas, or different types of shale and stuff like that. If they determine that it was profitable for them, they can do that. This actually lowers the cost for us and for people and companies all around the world. Okay, because if we didn't have this market, oil companies and gas companies would actually make less money, and thereby would probably make it so that oil, gas, diesel, natural gas, all these different types of oil, etc., would actually be more money for everybody. Okay, so for example, if oil companies can sell diesel and oil across to the United Kingdom or to Mexico or Canada, or wherever they decide they want to sell it at any particular month, and they can make money doing it, or they can import some, because believe it or not, the U.S. as a whole will sell some and import some. Okay, the U.S. is the largest producer of oil products, but we also export some and import some on a monthly basis, daily basis. This is constantly, there's some being put out, some being put in. We don't buy any from Russia now, and the oil companies and the states, the refinery. We have a refinery in Hawaii. They actually decided to stop buying from Russia before Congress made this decision and stuff like that. Okay, just as it's kind of a political move. Okay, they just kind of made it on their own. But what happens here is that the oil companies actually kind of can become more profitable. And if they weren't able to do that, it would actually raise costs. It would actually raise costs, because if they were making billions of dollars less, just think about the implications of that. Everything would cost more, and you can just kind of see the implications of that, right? Okay, so yeah, if free market wasn't there, they would have billions of dollars less to invest on anything, billions of dollars less to hire workers to drill in the ground, et cetera, et cetera. So Yeah, Congress could pass a law. They could go back to years and years and years, decades ago, when we only kept our oil here, and we could do that. But even experts in the oil industry have said that would probably actually raise our cost, because remember, we're actually importing some cheap oil, some cheap natural gas, etc. And the president or anybody, whether it's Trump would be president, Biden would be president, or who the next president or the next president may be, Congress would have to pass a law for this, but it would actually make stuff probably more expensive, more expensive. Okay. So, yeah, for example, we're seeing this happen. I just did a video on this. We're seeing some countries right now, like India, that are doing this with rice. Okay. And some countries do this when they get scared on certain type of things or certain type of food items or certain type of anything. Okay. And we see that some countries will hoard certain type of items. So India is doing this right now with rice, certain types of rice, and they're hoarding it. So what do you think happens to the price of rice? The price of rice starts to skyrocket. Okay. Now India's doing this selfishly. Okay. The rest of the world starts to suffer. They have rice. Okay. But then the price of rice skyrockets. Okay. Now oil is a global commodity. We produce oil, but everybody produces oil. Now remember here that in the U.S., if we were to try to hoard our oil, I don't know if we would actually, because remember, we're buying and selling oil and stuff like that. If we were to actually do that, we may be energy independent, but it would probably actually send the price of oil up in a dramatic situation like that because of kind of the panic. Remember that oil is sold on a stock market like exchange. And remember, whenever there's panic in a situation like that, it's never good for the prices like that. Whenever you you have blood in the streets, in a so figuratively speech like that, it never bodes well for the stock market. So yeah, it's probably not a good thing to do that. Just let the free market just kind of keep going. But in this particular case right now, oil is going up. And meanwhile, we have OPEC Plus and countries like Saudi Arabia and Russia who are cutting their outputs and actually working against us to make these prices higher all along the way. So we have actually been ramping up. Here is actually our oil production from the EIA, U.S. Energy Information Administration. The amount of thousands of barrels per day, so it equates to about millions of barrels. You can see here, this shows our current amount of barrels. So this is when Biden came into office, and when Trump's last day was in office, right about here in January of 2021. And it was about at 10,800, right about there. Um, Here was the pre-pandemic high before the crash of the pandemic, when the country kind of shut down and the prices sank again because of supply and demand. Obviously, prices were higher then. The pandemic hit, and we went from 13,000 barrels per day, so think 13 million, and we went all the way down to 9,700 barrels per day, because again, the country shut down, so to say, so to speak. And then since then, we were very, very low. Trump was still in office. And then Trump's last day in office was around here, 11,000 barrels per day or 10,800, somewhere in that range. And then Biden came in office, and then we've slowly been going back up. And we're here now, and we're getting closer and closer to the peak. So oil production has actually been increasing since then, contrary to what anybody might say, or this is just the statistics. You can look this right up here on the government website. We're now at 12,300 thousands of barrels per day. or about 12.3 million. So we have actually been increasing our oil production, but we're fighting against OPEC and OPEC Plus, or Saudi Arabia and Russia. They have actually cut their production by 3 million barrels per day. That's like 30% of our total production of the US. So it's a tough situation to fight against when they've cut 30% or actually a little bit more of our total production. I mean, yeah, that's like the whole drop here. We went from 13 million barrels per day, and our drop was down to 10 million barrels per day. That's like this whole drop here of what their production cut was. That's a pretty significant cut that we're fighting against. So let me know your thoughts. I'll keep you up to date here with everything happening here in our country on a daily basis. If you haven't yet, subscribe down below, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on anything happening here. And thanks for liking and sharing these videos. Click here to see people are just dropping dead, a bizarre story and video. Or a video about nuclear explosion, a massive warning. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.